All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Connecting in the Clouds. Got my co-host Amy here. I think Shannon will be with us here shortly. She's running a little bit behind. And with us today is a great special guest. We have April Edwards with us. Hello, April.
Hey, Dwayne, how are you?
Good. Why don't you give everybody a quick rundown? Most of the people that are listening or watching know who you are, but why don't you give a quick rundown about yourself, April?
Oh, wow, that could be a long story. Let's start from the top. No, I'm trying to remember my job title. They changed our job titles like a few weeks ago. Senior Developer Advocate at GitHub, running kind of the DevOps focused areas within GitHub. And with that, prior to that, I was at Microsoft as an advocate as well. So working alongside Amy. So I've been at GitHub 4.5 months now. It's been a super long journey though. It's been awesome. But I have an ops background. I started in tech about 24 years ago, actually exactly 24 years ago, and moved into development, moved into engineering at Microsoft actually, and built up the accidental good blog, did a video, and people are like, oh wow, you should be an advocate. And here I am. I'm an advocate now at GitHub. So I do lots of things in the cloud, basically.
Just like all of us, right? All of us.
Pretty much.
Right.
Cloud
stuff.
Everything I do is in the cloud. Everything.
That's how my wife describes it. I do cloud stuff.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good job.
I mean, not in tech.
Cloud stuffer.
Cloud
do things in the cloud. Things in the cloud.
Pretty much.
No, that's awesome. Oh, hold on. The fingers going at me as we got Shannon here.
Shannon.
Hello, Shannon.
Sorry.
You're fine.
I got stuck into a last-minute meeting. So, April, I think you know this by now. I work for Amy's boss. My boss is Amy's wife. No.
Surprise.
Husband. Good Lord, the coffee is not kicking in. Everything is just not happening. So hopefully the coffee kicks in. I literally just downed it like I was shooting a shot. So.
I would not mind a second, a wife,
I should tell that to Nick.
If anyone wants to play.
So Nick is my boss, Amy's husband. Good Lord.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Got it. We're good.
All right,
okay.
we are.
Yeah.
And we've already gone live, Shannon. So we are live, and April just gave a quick rundown of her, of herself, and just what she's doing at GitHub, and now we're just kind of in the Q&A aspect of things.
Nice.
So
okay.
So Amy, I know you have some questions for.
Oh no, those were jokes.
No, you should go. I'm ready. Let's go.
Well, actually, I want to know what prompted the hair change. It's pretty drastic. It sounds like new beginnings. Wow.
Midlife crisis is really what's happened. No, actually about 2 years ago, I was in a pub in England with some friends at dinner, and a woman had her hair cut in such a way, because I was like, how do I deal with my hair? My hair's been long, and I've had the undercut for 3-4 years. I don't even know. 4 years, I think I've had it done for. I don't know. It lost track of time. 4 years. And I just got to the point where I was like, my hair's just getting long and I don't know what to do with it. It gets kind of out of control. This is totally a first world problem. And I went to PowerShell Conf in June and dressed up as the PowerShell hero. There is actually a video and photos of me on the internet doing this. And that was kind of like a lifelong dream. But I was like, I've dyed my hair purple. I've dyed it blue. I kind of I'm done with it. It was getting hot out. And I just went to my hairdresser. I said, what do we do? He goes, well, let's cut it short. And we found hairstyles. The problem was I'd already had it in one thing, what kind of one style. So we're in the process of growing it out and shaping it now. But when he cut it, this was all blonde. And then all the length was super dark brown because I have pretty dark hair. So he's like, we'll just bleach it all and it'll be fine. Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah. He bleached it at and my hair appointment was at 6:00 at night. I'm getting on a plane the next morning to go to a conference.
Oh.
And I'm like, I just have to look like I'm kind of normal. I can't wear a hat tomorrow. So just make me normal. And he bleaches it and he goes, how do you feel about copper? And I'm like, why? And he showed it to me and I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So my hair, because I've been dyeing it for so long, didn't bleach. So
I figured it would probably come out orange and stuff.
It did. It came out orange. Copper.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so he used copper toner, and then I went to the Netherlands the next day, and because in the Netherlands orange is their color, I was like, that is so cool. I'm like, yeah, it was totally intentional.
Now you have to do that for everywhere you go.
Well, so now I'm just growing it out. I'm gonna embrace my silver hair now, and short hair is amazing. Like, why did someone not tell me this before?
I know. I want to. I always
like I wake up and I literally just do this and it's done.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. So
yeah, I'm all about embracing the gray hair life. Like Shannon, she's rocking it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, my hair grows very fast. Yeah, my hair grows really fast, and I got to the point where I would dye it. A week later, the gray would be like, "Hey, remember me?" And I'm like, "No, I dyed you. Like, come on,
that would
go
exactly
away."
It. I was dyeing my hair, and like every 2 weeks, I'm like, I need to redo my roots, or I have to hide it. How do you hide gray hair when you have dark hair? So that's why I started bleaching this to hide the growth, because that would grow. I'd have to cut this every 10 days. So, I think I'm just gonna embrace the gray.
Do it.
Shannon's rocking it. Like, how bad can it be? Midlife crisis. It's, here we come.
It's short.
And my hair's been short since I was, I think, like 18 or 19. I've got really thick hair, so I think you do too, don't you, April? Yeah,
I've got the Native American really thick
hair.
I have the hair envy, man.
Yeah, so we can totally trade.
I would totally trade.
Everyone's like, you have amazing hair, but it's when it's long.
It's a pain.
It's so heavy.
Oh God, yeah. In high school, there were times I would put it in a ponytail because I was running late. I took a shower. I'd come home, take the ponytail out, and my hair was still wet. I'm like, okay, that's awful, right?
So
but that's how thick it is.
That's the same problem in England because we have so much humidity here. My hair doesn't dry. Like, I can't wear it down, and I would do it like a bun or a ponytail because I just need it off. If I'm writing code, I'm like heads down typing like this. My hair's in my face, so I always put it up, and my hair would not dry. So my hair was almost like musty.
It's not fun. It's not a fun thing to have.
I figure with all the sports too, the training, the biking, the running, you're like big head of hair probably doesn't help either.
Well, now the new problem is after I've cut my hair off, it's like I get on the bike. Nothing holds my sweat now. It just comes down my face.
Now you have to get the sweatband.
I do. I have them. I bought two. I have one that goes under my bicycle helmet, and then I've got one that I can wear when I run. But then I just wear a hat or a visor when I run now. So like I did a race a week ago, not even 5 days ago. I had to figure out what do I do with my hair, and I wore a visor, and it just kept the sweat off. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. First of all,
April, that's an interesting thing. You do like Ironman competitions, don't you? So
Correct.
that's really amazing.
How many have you done?
Well, officially I've done 5 full Ironmans, and last Sunday I would have made 16 half Ironmans. Officially. And then I've done various other length races, but yeah, I've done a lot of stupid, crazy things in my life.
Like pain.
Being
up at 5 a.m. or whatever. 4 a.m.
I have trouble running down the street, so.
I like sleep. I can't.
I know. I sleep is precious.
So, I mean, all of you have kids, so you have other responsibilities in your lives. I have a dog and nothing else to keep me out of trouble. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do triathlon and be healthy. It's gonna be great. I always joke with people though, and they're like, you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, do you do any physical exercise? I'm like, yeah, 7 days a week. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, triathlon, more expensive than drugs. I literally could spend less money if I had a really bad drug habit. It would. Triathlon is stupid money, but
it is. Even when I did a marathon,
it does. I mean, I actually have a blog about it on my personal blog. And there's a post that I think the brand Ironman ran, and they're like, it's $10,000 US to do an Ironman. And that includes your bicycle, race fees, travel costs, nutrition, sports massages, hotel, the kit you're wearing, it's all the stuff that goes into around it, like pool memberships. And I haven't done the math, but I would say it's probably easily $10,000. But when you're in the cycle, you already own the bike and everything, you're kind of bought into it.
You're sucked in.
But then you can spend endless amounts of money on a bike. I mean, the upgrade.
Wheels and I
bought wheels last year. I painted my bike because it was 3 years old and it was getting scratched up and beat up from racing. And again, first world problems. But it's my hobby, right? It's one of my hobbies. And you know what? And actually, genuinely, Dwayne, it keeps me from working in tech. I need something unrelated to tech outside of my job. So when I was in my 20s, I loved home projects. I had home servers, I was building out all sorts of stuff. And now I'm I'm done working. I want nothing to do with the cloud or building containers or deploying code. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I like the odd project, but I'm like, I literally have to segment my head out and do other things now.
I'm the same way. I don't understand how people do that. Probably people like Dwayne and Gregor. Like it's like Azure all the time. It seems like it's like, how do you guys sleep?
You have like
No, I
do
Azure
stuff.
They
shaped
don't.
cornflakes in the
Dwayne's
morning.
up
Like,
all
how
the
does that
time.
work?
Yeah.
Dwayne is like, and he's got this session, this thing, like writing a
but,
book.
Yeah, but on the side, I'm running kids to to athletics and things like that. Now, like my son just decided last week he's gonna play football this year. He's going into grade, so he's like,
Nice.
I'm gonna play football. He's almost 6 feet tall and 170 pounds at 13. So we're not too worried about him getting bullied out there.
That's
He's
awesome.
gonna eat. Is he eating you out of house and home? It sounds like he might be.
Just about. Yeah, but he's like, I want to play another sport and I want to get in shape because he plays basketball for obvious reasons and enjoys that. But he decided last week and and he did a little camp this week that was 2 hours long, and I'm like, he's like, how long are football practices? I'm like, they're 3.
I remember seeing the teams work out
3 days a week, 3 days a week, 3 hours a day.
Yeah, and then they lift weights.
I'm like, you say you want to get into shape, you're gonna get into shape, dude.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like April's exercising? Like
Probably.
I don't know. Might have to get him in the April's exercise program to condition for triathlons.
It's a totally different mentality. I mean, so growing up, I played sports. So being an American by birth, my great uncle played pro football. And
very
so
cool.
I come from a huge football family. Like we live and
What
breathe it.
team?
So he played for the Patriots back before they were the New England Patriots. They were the Boston Patriots.
Okay.
He also played on the Eagles. He was on the 1960 Eagles championship team where they beat Green Bay.
Wow.
Yeah, right. He
Hey,
also
man,
was the
I'm a Green
last
Bay fan.
man in the NFL to not wear a face mask. So
Wow.
yeah, he was an ugly Mama Jamba.
Oh man.
Dude. So my dad played for William and Mary till he blew out his knees. But when I was growing up, I mean, same as your son, Dwayne, like I played basketball. Believe it or not, all 5'4" of me, I was an amazing shooting point guard. I was getting.
I was gonna say, were you the point guard?
Yeah. I played forward and point guard. I sometimes played forward, but they moved me to point guard. They're like, I could dribble and I could shoot. So they're like, we'll throw you in point guard.
You see little April.
I'm not that tiny. Come on.
It's a lower center of
5'4".
gravity. I used to play basketball, but I've always been about 5'10". So it's a little easier.
Really?
Yeah.
You're
I'm
5'10".
Yeah, everyone
5'10".
like gets shocked when
And
they meet her.
nobody thinks I'm as tall as I am. I'm 5'10". I'm taller than Amy. I'm taller than Nick, her husband.
Yeah.
So
I'm a whopping 5'6".
Because we've never met in real
yeah,
life.
we've never met. We'll have to figure that out.
You come to New York too.
Yeah,
there you
you can come to New York. Amy and I are catching up in New York in September, so come join us.
Oh, nice. Nice. I'll have to tell Nick I need to take a day off or two.
Yeah.
For how long?
Yeah,
we're taking.
Spend a weekend.
Obviously.
There's probably offices out there.
Oh, I think there is. Yeah, I just
There
don't
you
know
go.
where they are. I gotta
Go
look it up.
visit.
I gotta go visit another office.
Get airfare covered.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I'm trying to get to Chicago though. I was actually asked to go to Chicago. Well, I was actually supposed to go to KubeCon, North America.
Oh yeah, it's in November.
But
You going? You're not going?
same week as GitHub Universe.
Oh yeah, isn't that next week?
And that is your
Whatever
no
November.
November. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no Chicago. They're like, well, could you fly in Monday to KubeCon and then fly to GitHub Universe? And I'm like, no, we're not doing
That's
this. No.
insane.
Who's sleeping for you? That's a lot of flight, right?
You know what?
Selfishly, come to Chicago.
Well, right, yeah, because Amy
Sure.
and I live about 15 miles from each other, something like that.
So funnily enough, when Amy told me where she lived, I was like, I bought a car there. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I went to Purdue University and I totaled my car my freshman year of college, and don't ask. I had an interview with the poll.
Yeah, as you do.
As everyone does.
I had a legit reason
Never.
as to why I totaled my car, I think. But I had to buy a new car, and I actually bought one in the same town Amy lives in. So I spent a weekend up in her town.
Real.
Oh, nice.
They have all these awesome shirts.
So she's further west than me. I live just outside of the city. Like I can walk to Chicago in about 10 minutes, but Amy certainly cannot. She has to get into a car.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
farther out. But
Yeah.
she's got more space. Like I have like the traditional Chicago lot. Like I could almost high five my neighbors. That's how close I am to my neighbors.
Same.
So
Same in
yeah.
the UK.
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say, yeah, you know.
I hear my neighbors every single day and their small child.
I'd be wearing noise canceling headphones all day.
Oh, I've got earbuds. I've got my over-the-ear noise canceling headphones. And I have Bluetooth speakers around the house. And I'm like, the child's screaming, and I'm like,
Hey Siri, play.
I play music sometimes just to annoy them. Maybe not my forte of music, but something really obnoxious. Sometimes
Like what?
happens.
Like have like heavy metal?
Oh no, I love heavy
Maybe just
metal.
like
So
baby-
I will gladly play that. Sometimes I'll play something a little bit more West Coast rap style. Yeah, and I'm like,
little,
a lot of
little
bass.
gangster rap.
Yes, and I'll throw the speaker up against the wall so that it. Because
All the
I'm a horrible. Look, I'll be honest. I genuinely think they have the theory of raising children that they're going to let their child cry it out, because I don't hear her go to her child to soothe it. I hear this child screaming like he's being murdered, and they're not doing anything about it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So the child wakes me up at like 5 a.m. It keeps me up at 11 p.m. So
oh man,
if I happen to be doing something in the house, I might be listening to like gangster rap
watching the
night
dishes.
against that wall.
watch the how old is the kid? Is the kid like a toddler or
I
sounds
think
like it might be?
I
he might be.
think he's like a year, maybe 14 months.
Okay.
I don't remember when the child was born, because I don't speak to even though like they're my neighbors and we literally high five across the wall. I don't speak to them.
Keep your thing, child.
That's
over
a little old. That's a little old to be doing the cry it out technique. They should
Yeah,
have
yeah.
through that one already.
They've been doing it since day one. So I didn't know she had actually like given birth. I just hear a screaming child one day.
Surprise!
I'm in my front room and I'm like,
Congrats.
I'm in my living room.
She must have given birth.
Yeah. I mean, she hid the pregnancy, to be honest. She really hid the pregnancy.
Oh, like I thought you were just going to the pub too much.
Yeah, eating
That's
pub
that.
food.
Nope, she was
right, eating a bunch of
pregnant.
pretzels.
All right.
Yeah.
That's too funny. No, I was in a townhouse. I always like tried to keep Ian from screaming, which was interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, I would have assumed she'd be soothing the child and be like, oh, you
Get
know,
him
I
out.
hear none of that. I just hear screaming child.
She's
And like, where are the parents? I actually like, and I genuinely was like concerned for the welfare of the child. I was like, is this normal? Do children cry this much?
No. In fact,
well-
our son's about that age. He's 18 months, so he's a year and a half now.
He's
All
a
of the little
can.
switches
I
are
love him.
flipping on,
He's so
and
cute.
he's trying to talk, which is great. But there are times he gets frustrated because he cannot say the words he wants to say.
Yeah.
And so he'll like freak out in public, and we do our best to calm him because it's like we're in public.
Right.
At home, sometimes we let him do it if we've tried multiple times and he just wants to cry. I'm like, fine, he's just in a bad mood. Let's let him get it out. But when we're in public, like people give you those looks of like, what are you doing with your child? And why did you bring your child out? And it's like, I have no idea what's going on with my child. I cannot wait until he can communicate to us a little bit better.
Like, if I fix it, I would. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
We got so lucky. All three of my kids were angels at restaurants. It was, like
no.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
there's nothing
restaurant's
more
good.
embarrassing. There's nothing more embarrassing than when your child has a meltdown in a restaurant.
At a restaurant.
I had
yeah.
45 minutes
Like,
to shovel food and
like you said, it's like my wife was being a teacher and everything was the master. We always had coloring books and crayons with us.
Oh yeah.
I need
Walked into a
coloring books and crayons as an adult.
I know,
most
same.
restaurants will have that for kids anyway, but we always had coloring books and crayons and toys, and like it was like we brought half the house into Red Robin, and
I mean, that's the way to do it. They all have ADHD at that age, right? Reese is starting to he's starting to color a little bit. He doesn't quite understand how to hold it. So we spend a lot of time trying to show him how to hold it. But then he just grabs it and just makes a bunch of marks. And he starts laughing at himself because he thinks it's really funny. So I can only imagine what's going to happen when he gets older and starts writing on the walls and stuff. Because I know it's coming. He's a little boy. And he is definitely one of those like stereotypical boys getting into everything. And, and it's funny because we went to Nebraska over the July 4th holiday. That's where I'm from originally. And, all of my boys will be boys. I hate that saying because I feel like that's such like an old school saying, but then I'm watching him like tear things up. And like, I'm like, okay, maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe there's some truth to it.
like he's destroying that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
The girls are coloring, the boys are like,
Yeah.
that's my 13-year-old, and that's the same. Like, that's like with football. He's like, you know what? I'm excited to play football because I like hitting people.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, we shouldn't say this out loud.
Okay,
Say this only to me. Never say this to anybody else.
This is why April doesn't have kids.
I have a giant toddler though. I have a 150-pound toddler.
Yeah.
to be
I was
fair.
gonna say, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got
I
the
forget-
dog who is like a toddler.
Do you, April? Do you have siblings? Don't you, or are you only child?
No, I do have siblings. I've got an older brother who's 50. I've got a half brother who's 22, 23, and I've got a stepsister. I have no idea how old she is. She just had a baby like 8 months ago. I don't know. I'm not very
you
close
are
to
an
her.
aunt. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it, but so you are an aunt.
Yeah, I guess I am. I should also preface this. All my family lives in the U.S. So my
okay.
stepsister and I don't really talk. We don't speak. We just don't. We never really like grew up, got along together. And my half brother Isaac, who's an amazing musician. When he was born, I was moving out of the house. My dad has a much younger wife in his most current marriage, and they have Isaac. So I have one brother who's 50 and one who's like 22, 23. So by the time Isaac was born, I'm like, I'm out the door. But I get to see Isaac. So Isaac and I usually meet up in Colorado. We go skiing together. I'm actually going to see him in September. He's flying out. So I'm flying out to the East Coast in September, and Isaac will be there. So I'll get to see him for a couple days. And then, but he's this mad musician. But I don't have a lot of siblings per se. Didn't really grow up around lots of children.
Well, yeah, because it's an age difference between you and your brother, and then there's obviously an age difference between you and your half siblings. So you kind of were like an only child then growing up.
Pretty much. I mean, I definitely had an older brother who hung me upside down by my ankles.
As they do.
Yeah. And I had a pretty unique situation growing up. And I've actually have a friend of mine who lives in Chicago now, just had her first kid, and we're chatting about nannies and everything. And growing up, both my parents worked full time. And we actually had a housekeeper because my brother was in the house. My brother's friend lived with us. So while I only have really one brother, I have my brother's friend who was around growing up. He came from a really, really rough background, really troubled. And so he went to a different school than my brother, but he shared the room with my brother, and they had like their own ensuite bathroom. They had 2 beds. It was a pretty good sized room. So they had 2 beds in the room. And then, so I had kind of 2 brothers while I was growing up, which was great. But my actual brother used to hang me upside down by my ankles and torture the crap out of me. And so I did have that experience growing up of like having the older brother experience. And I got the hand-me-downs, I learned lots of bad language from my brother as well.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I had my mouth washed out with soap when I was like 5.
Where'd you learn that?
See, I always wanted an older brother. All my friends with older brothers are like, you're nuts. I'm like, I was the oldest, right? And I've got 2 younger sisters. And so I always wanted that, older brother for some reason. I thought like he would take care of me. And then my friends are like, are you kidding me? Like, that's like your romanticized version of it.
Right.
All they would have done would have been picking on you, hanging you upside down, beating you up.
Yeah.
Embarrassing you. Yeah.
My brother used to flick me. He used to hang me. I know when you're raising children now, you're supposed to use your words and, talk to them and be calm. Like my brother beat the crap out of me. And if like I did something wrong, he wouldn't go and tell my parents. He'd literally smack me or be like on the head. I have other friends who have brothers and they're like, oh, he's tattling on me, blah, blah. I'm like, no, my brother literally just beat the snot out of me. And like, he'd put a lock on his door one time because I would always want to go hang out with him and his friends. I was like, ooh, he's cool.
The annoying sister.
Yeah, I was definitely the annoying sister. But yeah, my brother was cool. I mean, he went to the cool university. He went to University of Vermont, actually.
Oh, okay.
So my brother was a party guy. Definitely a party guy. Like he got into a lot of trouble. But they used to, because in Vermont it snows a lot. So they used to tow each other down the streets during a snowstorm and either ski or snowboard and make ramps on the side. So someone take like their Jeep and tow each other down the road. So going to visit my brother was like a load of fun. My parents are like, what'd you do this weekend? I'm like, hung out.
Played in the snow.
In the snow.
Yeah.
Actually, true story. My mother doesn't know the story, but she will now because she'll probably. Yeah. So my dad actually drove the Jeep one time and let me go behind it. He's like, "Do not tell your mother," and I'm like, "Okay." So yeah.
amazing.
So yeah.
Now,
So, yeah.
April, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the Boston area?
I grew up in DC actually. So
DC. Okay.
yeah, DC was where I grew up. Boston was kind of my adult home, and then I moved to Colorado for a little bit before moving over to the UK. But
Okay.
Where'd
So
you live in the DC area, April?
Bethesda.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I graduated from Severna Park in Maryland.
Awesome. So I was supposed to go to Walt Whitman, and I ended up getting recruited to go to another high school, actually in Kentucky. It's not one I like speaking about publicly because it's embarrassing. Like, yeah, I lived in Kentucky for a while. I have all my teeth still.
That's good. That's because you weren't born there. Oh, I should be nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Inclusive
and diverse group here for Connecting the Clouds.
I have so many friends that live in Louisville, Kentucky, to this day. So look, I think Kentucky gets a lot of heat, and trust me, they're like backwoods of Kentucky. But I remember like moving to Kentucky, my friends were like, "Oh," and I'm like, I was recruited for basketball. I was there to get a basketball scholarship, which I ended up not doing, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, I grew up in DC, grew up in Bethesda, and very different way of life than the UK for sure. But yeah, I grew up there, moved to Boston after college, and then moved to Colorado, and then moved to England. So I've lived in New York for a short time. I've kind of lived
transatlantic. You're transatlantic.
I spent 22 of my first 25 years in Maryland. Those other 3 were in New Jersey, so I just forget about those. then in 95, I moved to Michigan. So when I turned 50, my wife let me know that I've been now in Michigan more than half my life. So
you know what though? That's when people ask me where I'm from. I say the town I live in now, and they look at me. They're like, "But you're not British." I'm like, "Well, I am British. I have a passport, but I've lived in this town longer than I've lived anywhere else in my adult life. And actually, even since I was a kid, I mean, I think the house I live in now, I've owned. What year is it? It's 2023. I've owned it since 2016. I mean,
okay.
I've not lived anywhere this long as an adult, much less in my younger years. Yes, but yeah, I mean, people are like, "But you're not British." I'm like, "Well, I am," but
yeah, no accent. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
sometimes.
Yeah.
You start to figure out, turn on your accent, just like the British actors and British singers always like sing.
They go very American. Hugh Laurie. I watched House, the entire series of House.
So did I. And same.
Same.
I didn't either. Yeah, and then I heard him speak, and I'm like, I mean, it makes sense. It works, but it's not what you think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that blew my mind. So the first time I heard Hugh Laurie speak like British English, I'm like, no, he's speaking. Oh my God, he's British. Like it blew my little mind. But yeah,
that was on Grey's Anatomy too. Camilla Luddington, of course, that's a very English sounding name.
Camilla's a very British
she does
name.
the voice for Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
But I'm like, she's British. Like she does this American accent.
Yeah.
So
well, when people sing, they have an American accent. There's something I don't remember the science behind it, but I remember like reading about it one time. People that sing whatever their native language is, the intonations go away, and because also pop culture, like that's where the Europeans learn most of their English is like the pop culture, music, movies, and TV.
Yeah.
So they tend to learn the American English. So that's actually been a challenge for me over here. Is I moved over here and I started using British phrases, and then my European friends are like, "What's a slip road?" like what's this? What's that? So I had to revert to American language. So I do sometimes sound British if I'm around a lot of British people for a few days. But I tend to work in with Europeans, and I have to use my American English. And then I'm speaking to you all as Americans. I revert to American. If I add beer, I sound very New York. So like it just fluctuates.
Yeah, I was always struggling on where you were from originally. Oh, sorry, Dwayne.
Oh no, I was gonna say I went to college in York, Pennsylvania, but I hung out with a lot of kids from Long Island, and I come home with a New York accent. My friends would be like, "You've been in Pennsylvania? What are you doing?"
Yeah, it's funny because like my dad is from New Jersey, born and bred, which is why I'm headed to the East Coast in September. We're gonna go do a father-daughter road trip. yeah, my dad's looking forward to it. I think it's a good thing to do. Spend some time with your parents. My dad loves reminiscing on the old things. I'm actually going to go see the house I grew up in as well. They've changed that house.
That's cool.
There'll be tears. There'll be tears, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
But my dad's from Jersey, and he's lived in Kentucky so long that he has this funny accent. And I look at my dad, I'm like, you used to make fun of people that sound like that, and now you sound like one of them. And I'll totally tease my own father.
That's
or
funny.
as the British say, I'm taking the piss out of him.
Taking the piss, yeah.
So, but yeah, and like my stepdad is from Brooklyn, Jewish.
Okay.
He's in Florida. He is proper Brooklyn. He has not lost that Brooklyn accent in his entire. I mean, he lived on Long Island for umpteen years as well, but he's never lost it. And even in Florida, even being around, he travels quite a bit. He's never lost that Brooklyn accent.
Yeah. It's funny.
It's been strong. So accents are fun things. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet one of the sales guys at Ahead. He's from Boston originally, but he lives in SoCal. So imagine my surprise when I meet him, and he's got the Southie accent going, and I'm like, one of these things is not like the other. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, so then I said, "Are you from Boston originally?" He's like, "What gave it away? My accent?" I'm like, 100%.
1,000%.
You get a lot of British people that wear American themed things, like. You see Harvard sweatshirts. Yeah. So I went up to this girl one day and I was like, how do you like them apples? And she's like,
what are you talking about?
I'm like, did you park your car in the yard? And she's like, what? And I'm like, take off that Harvard hoodie. You don't deserve that hoodie. Yeah. But it's the same thing. The Brits wear New York Yankees hats and New York Yankees, whatever, because they think it stands for New York. And I'm like, oh, you're a Yankees fan? They're like, no. So I think I struggle to find that similarity over here with Brits or someone, so some Brits are like, oh yeah, I went to a Yankees game and I bought it, and, but most of them are like, oh, I just thought it was New York. And I'm like, nope,
it's a team.
They do things like win World Series and they're an amazing baseball team. And,
right.
Don't
say you like the Mets.
Screw the Cubs. Oh, I hate the Mets. Hate the Mets. Anyways.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so I was always wondering if you were Boston or New York, because I could kind of hear like
you sound Boston to
little
me.
bits,
Boston.
But then I was like, well, maybe it's not Boston, maybe it is New York. So the fact that you've lived all over, you kind of are just an amalgamation of a lot of different accents. Is what it sounds like.
My brother lived in the Upper East Side for a long time, Battery Park for a little bit. So I was in New York a lot. And New York, for those of you watching, New York is 4 hours away from Boston via car, or so Long Island is. Manhattan's about 3 hours pending traffic. So I spent a lot of time there for years, but I lived in Boston, and DC is really a very bland accent to me. Like
it is.
You're above the Mason-Dixon line. And if anyone doesn't know their geography, please look at a map and read their history book. I'm not going to explain that, but you're above the Mason-Dixon line. So your accent is definitely very much like neutral.
Like a more of a northern accent, but
exactly
lack of the southern twang.
You add an ER to things. I learned that when I came to Michigan, is like you say things like Earl and Werder instead of water.
Or worse.
I say water. Water, coffee.
Yeah.
I draw it out. It depends.
But when we see my parents now, it like comes, it's much more to my ear than it was when I was there, being in Michigan for so many years now. But it's been beaten out of me by my wife teasing me about my accent for 25 years now. So
I always thought you were proper Michigan.
That never stops, because the British constantly autocorrect me. They're like, we invented the language. You say it like this, and I'm like, like the word Derby. How would you spell Derby?
Oh God, that's a trick question.
Isn't that Derby? Probably Derby.
So there's a town here called Derby, but it's spelled Derby, Derby. But you pronounce it Derby. So then if you think of roller derby, they say roller derby, and I'm like, time out. Nope. You got to revert that one.
Yeah, right.
I remember ordering a mocha, and she's like maca, and I'm
they say maca.
Maca. I'm like,
if I order a mocha, every single time they're like, what? I'm like, mocha. Like I don't even remember maca.
It's yogurt too instead of yogurt.
Yeah, they say yogurt.
Basil.
Basil. Oregano.
Yeah.
Banana. Tomato.
Banana. Well, I'm married to that. Banana. We always tease them.
I had some American friends over. Actually, I think they're still over here technically. They were over here. I went to visit them like a week and a half ago, and they're like, what the heck is squash? Their British friends sent them to get squash at the store. And I'm like, right.
Oh.
An American squash is a piece of food. British squash is like concentrated juice, but with not juice, but then you add it to water to flavor your water. So you have
Yeah.
a whole aisle of squash.
Wow.
Like a friend was looking for that here. I'm like, we do not do that.
No.
You know, like
So is it like a juice concentrate?
it's a
Or is
drink.
it?
Yeah, and you add
Yeah,
water.
it's a juice concentrate, and because the UK has taken in what they call a sugar tax, they now put an artificial sweetener in it. So you don't give a kid juice because it has all this sugar, but you give them squash. So you just give them a touch of squash to like flavor the water. So it's like a watered down juice. And I'm like, I don't drink it. Doesn't taste as good as Kool-Aid, in my opinion. I love Kool-Aid. Love
Fun
Kool-Aid.
fact: Kool-Aid was originated in Nebraska.
Oh,
Really?
Fun fact.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I did not
Wow,
know
we
that.
can thank
Yeah.
Nebraska for Kool-Aid.
Thank Nebraska. Yeah, for that, and then Arbor Day. That's another one. So
Oh,
we've been at
that's
Arbor
cool.
Day. In
I'd
fact,
have
when you
man
go
down.
into the state, it's always like, "Welcome to Nebraska, home of Arbor Day," and I'm like, "That's so lame," but okay, whatever.
Hey,
I've driven through Nebraska so many times. I don't think I've ever remember seeing that sign.
So you have to go west. You can't go east. So maybe
So
that's
I've
it.
driven
from like
I've driven through Nebraska on 80 to get to Colorado and Utah.
Oh, so
like,
then you would
bazillion
have
times.
seen it coming in. You know, but it's one of those things. It's not a it's like a regular sign, but it's not an insanely big sign. Like it's not like
Okay.
lit up or whatever. And you have to look in one specific spot. But yeah, it's like welcome to Arbor Day. In fact, I don't know if you can see it. I have a replica up here. It says, you know, welcome to Nebraska. It's probably blurred a little bit because I'm using my DSLR or my mirrorless camera, but yeah, it says home of Arbor Day. So I couldn't go home during COVID, and my mom decided to get me the replica for Christmas that year.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks
good old
for
Nebraska. One of the most boring states to drive through.
I
Kansas is
know.
worse. Iowa's
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ohio comes in pretty
I
close.
mean, Ohio at least has hills.
Ohio has
It depends on where
you
you're
know
driving
what
from.
Ohio has?
You go east to west in Ohio, it's pretty bland.
It's pretty boring, but Ohio has great how do I phrase this kindly? Big signs on the side of the road for interesting stores to keep you out.
Yeah.
And none of that.
Well, yeah, it's because they're more conservative. Like they have like the more like religious signs and things of that
We're gonna-
sort. So
We're gonna get Rod Trent after us for bashing Ohio.
Oh,
is that where he's from originally?
Yeah, it's well, he's at
Okay.
now.
I don't think I
It
knew
is
that.
right
Oh, is
there.
that where he's at now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
central.
I've driven through Ohio a lot. I dated a guy from Cincinnati back when I was in college, and I drove through Ohio a lot. And
Oh,
I'm like,
Cincinnati's nice. Yeah, Cincinnati's nice. Yeah, going north south, like
East-
we've
north,
taken.
south, and east, west. I've driven through Cleveland a few times. I've driven up to Cleveland. I've had a lot of fun driving through Ohio. But I think Ohio is more fun because Nebraska is literally east to west is like 8 hours.
Yeah,
it's
it's a pretty
Without
long
snow and
state.
driving wind, for the record, because I've done that in the driving snow.
Yeah.
That's been hoot.
Yeah, and once you get past Lincoln, so I'm from Lincoln, right? So I'm on the
Okay.
eastern side of the state. Once you get past Lincoln, there's not a lot going on.
There's
In
nothing.
fact, the amount of rest stops and gas stations start to dwindle, and so they start putting signs up. Next gas station's in like 75 miles.
Like,
and you're
warning.
I better pull over. I better make sure I have enough gas. Geez, that's a lot of miles
Yeah.
between the next gas. Yeah, so I've done that drive to Colorado multiple times. It's always kind of nice too because you're like, I'm getting close. It looks drier. I'm definitely in Colorado now. That's
When
kinda
I
what it is.
see the first hill, I know I'm getting next to Wyoming. Like I'm like, oh my god, it's a hill. There's Wyoming on the horizon.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
4 more hours.
There's a really funny South Park where they go to Nebraska. I think it's I can't remember which kid now. Oh my god, it'll come to me randomly. But they're driving into Nebraska, and I'll have to find it, and I'll put it in whatever tweet you tweet about this because it is just hilarious. It's like they're in Nebraska, and they're like, okay, like,
we're
and
in
it's a very short clip, but it's very funny. So I
Yeah,
did
we'll
not do
have
it
to find that.
justice.
We'll
I'll have
have
to
to find
find the clip and
I've
post it.
spent a lot of time.
Isn't that
Actually,
in Wayne's World too? Like we're in Ohio.
Oh, it's Delaware. We're in
Delaware.
Yeah, because remember
Delaware.
they do all the bits for like
This is
Hawaii and for
Yeah.
like California,
This
and
is
we're
Delaware.
in Delaware.
Delaware.
Yeah, they were doing the virtual background.
Yeah.
Virtual background.
Yeah.
Before we knew what virtual background, before that was like a normal thing.
thing. right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Before COVID, right? I feel like
Yeah,
everybody got a
good
virtual
time,
background
yeah.
during COVID.
pre-COVID, back in the day.
Yeah, back when times seemed better, you know.
Oh.
We were just joking about it at work recently. I was like, you know how like sports teams get like a bye a week? We need like a bye 20 years. The last 3 years have been awful. Well, they've gotten iteratively better. Maybe I should be not as negative, but they've gotten iteratively better.
2021 sucked. 2020 was pretty bad. 2021 got worse.
Like
2022 was interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of did like this for me. Like it was kind of one of these sort of things. And
yeah.
I don't know. And then like
I thought in 2021 things would get better. They definitely got worse in many ways. Actually, fun story, not really. 2 years ago, tomorrow is the passing of Abel Wang. So that was like, 2021 just didn't get any better. It did go up and down. But 2022 was a weird year, but things have gotten better. I would say in 2023, like travel's opened up, things are getting better. I mean, budgets are slashed, but economies are still growing, even though we're in this like depression or not depression, whatever we call it, recession.
Nobody wants to call it that though, because it becomes a political, throw the dart game.
Right.
It's like, oh God, just call it a recession. I think we're in one.
Yeah, it's crazy, but we shouldn't talk politics because all of us live in countries with a lot of political issues right now. Let's not drive down that.
Right. No, exactly. But yeah, so it's a weird time. I feel like we all need like a good 20 years of nothing, and that's not going to happen, right? Because
when you say 20 years, I need like 20 years of nothing without getting older. Maybe reverse aging, a clone of myself, something like that would be cool.
Yeah. Hey, whatever. Fill in the blank.
Exactly.
Yeah, now we're having like breaking heat waves, the wildfires. I'm like, come on, please.
It's cold in England. It's cold today. I say it's cold. It's like 19, 20 degrees and it's not going to be very nice. And I'm like, it's July. Why am I not warm and sweaty?
Yeah, it's all in Texas and Phoenix.
Yeah, I know. It's in the rest of Europe, actually. Greece is like 45 degrees, which is like 100-something degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow.
So Greece is getting pummeled.
That's like Phoenix is like right now.
Yeah, Phoenix is like that.
My manager's heading to Phoenix from the UK, and I'm like, okay, well,
ready to melt.
Hopefully, you don't catch fire.
Yeah, don't leave anything in the car that you it'll melt.
So I'm like, the bright side is everything's air conditioned in the US, so you're okay.
Yes. That is also true. So I mean, I've Americanized my house. I have air conditioning in my house. I have air conditioning in this office right now, so I have it running because I have all my equipment running, and it gets pretty warm under these lights. And people are like, "You don't need air conditioning," and then people are miserable for several weeks a year here, and I'm like, "Yeah, great. I'm fine. I'm cool." Like I'm like, "Oh, maybe I'll get a hoodie," and they're sitting in their offices like melting to their chairs. I'm like, "I'm gonna grab my hoodie." I'm a little chilly in my office right now.
Oh, that's so funny.
Drink some tea to warm up.
When did you put air conditioning in? What did you put it in after you bought it?
So I bought my house in 2016, and it was a complete and utter train wreck. Like I bought it because it needed work, and it's the biggest house on the street because of the way it's set up. And again, all the houses here are attached. They're called
row homes?
No, we call them row homes. I forget what the British call them now. I'm drawing an absolute blank. Converting words hurts. But they're attached. And mine had like an extra passage in the house. And the house actually used to be a shop in the 1960s. I have all the old paperwork. So they had like a shop storefront. So I had these really ugly store windows, 2 front doors. And the house had not been touched since 1967 because all the newspapers they put under the carpet to insulate and in the walls were from 1967. So that was the last time they did a major renovation. But my house was built in 1861. So right around the time of the American Civil War, actually. So I bought this house. It's a train wreck. And I saw a vision. And I'm like, it's actually something I hope I really caught from my mother. It was like, this house is cheaper than the rest of the houses. It's a good size. I can make this work. And ended up gutting the house to make it livable. Like the carpets were disgusting. I remember pulling out the carpets and like sand and dust and like 40 years of human hair was coming out.
I'm surprised you didn't hire somebody to do that. I'd be like, I can't do this.
Money.
I guess that's true.
I literally took a few weeks. Had the bathroom replaced. So it was the bathroom was like avocado green with like packaging tape on the bathtub. So the house became livable, but it wasn't great. And then I had to save up money. And then when COVID hit, I did a full renovation. I completely gutted my house. So I ripped out back in the day, the chimneys went through the house, obviously, to warm the whole house. And I had 4 fireplaces. So originally I was like, it'd be quaint, have, some fireplaces, have ambiance. And then I'm like, rip it out. I'm not going to use a fireplace. And I literally,
I don't
It
need
sounds better
ambiance.
on paper. It sounds
Yeah.
better on paper, right? You're like, ooh, yeah.
Four
And then
fireplace.
you're like, I don't want to deal with that much. That many.
Victorian house, let's do it. So I ripped it out, which sounds easy, but I had to go all the way through the top of the house to the loft. And so I had the loft kind of redone. The upstairs kind of stayed the same, except for where they ripped out the chimney. So then I put in like a master ensuite bathroom, a closet, and then I had to move my stairs, and I did a full extension out the back. So I've literally revamped the house. I've ripped out all the walls. I mean, I had builders that did the hard work, but I spent the first few years of my house, I was doing most of the work myself, just because of cost and you know, yeah. So so when I did the renovation, I was like, I need air conditioning. This is a non-negotiable. Also, because of the damp in England, the humidity, it will just take the damp out of the house.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find someone to install it, actually, because the UK, when they do air conditioning, they do like those outdoor external units on the wall, and then they do it on like they put a unit on the wall, and I can't turn my camera to show you, but I have one in my office just because of the way it is. So you have access to the outdoor wall through this unit that sits on the wall. But I was like, I want a ducted system, and everyone's like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I want ducts. I'm like, I literally ripped out all my ceilings, so we have space. Do it. And I finally found an installer to do it, and so I've put it in the 3 bedrooms upstairs. But when you open all the bedroom doors, it comes downstairs. So the house is pretty stinking cool. And then I have it in here in this office for heat and air. And at the time when I put it in, I don't want to name names, but certain former relationships in my life are like, it's going to cost so much money. It's going to cost so much money. I'm like, then I'll pay for it. I'll pay for all of it. And the electric bill is not that expensive. And
okay, well that's good.
It's pretty energy efficient because the house has been re-insulated.
I guess that's true. Yeah, because you did all that too. You re-insulated it as part of the
oh my god,
or the guttering, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, I actually put in real insulation. Put in what they call double skin walls. So there's like 2 layers of brick with a space in between to hold the air pockets. I don't know.
Wow.
Put in underfloor heating as well. I built a laundry room, unheard of in England. So in England, it has their washing machine in their kitchen under the sink, and I'm like, nope. I'm building a laundry room.
American girls going crazy.
Oh, I did. OMG, I did. I've Americanized my house, but it's comfortable, right? It's. I have a tumble dryer. Like most people don't have tumble dryers here.
Oh, right. Really? You just hang it to dry.
You hang it
I guess
outside
that's true. Yeah.
And you think about damp in your house, and then you're hanging out your laundry like towels and sheets. You're just adding more damp to your house. So I was like, I want a tumble dryer to take the damp out. So so I put in air conditioning, underfloor heating, just had the garden renovated. I had fake grass put in, which I know is debatable, but my garden isn't very big. And I walk between this office and the back of my house like 100 times a day with my small toddler, the dog, and it just tracked in mud. And I'm like, this isn't good for my floors. This isn't good for my mental health. Trying to clean up after a very large dog. He doesn't know to like step on the stones. Like I had like pavement stones. He's like, no, you know,
great.
So I've Americanized my house, which has been good, but it's it was a project for it. It's still not completely done, but it's been a project.
Well, I bet you get all the compliments from the Brits. They're probably like, wow.
Oh, I get FOMO. Like I have a neighbor that lives 3 doors down. Him and his husband come over, and they're just like, they came over one day, and he's like, every day I come over, April, you cost me 100 pounds. Like they came over one day, and they're like, tell me about your coffee machine. So Brits don't tend to have what you and I would call coffee. They call filter coffee. So drip coffee, right? So he comes over and I was like, yeah, I'll make you a cup of coffee. And he goes, tell me about this. And I was like, well, I have a coffee grinder, and then grinds my coffee. And then I put in the coffee machine, put in water, push the button, and there's a timer. And he goes, oh, we should do that. Because everyone has Nespresso machines over here, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
So I like normal coffee. Makes me shake less, really. Because otherwise you're like,
espresso. Yeah, I always feel like I'm gonna grow chest hair and howl at the moon. I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand like how much. I don't need that much energy. I just need to like make sure I'm awake. You know,
right? I need that just subtle level of focus for the rest of the day. So every time my neighbor Raph comes over with his husband, he's like, "You literally cost me money," because I show them something really cool. And to us, like as Americans, it's like
normal,
super basic, right? Yeah. Like coffee machine is like every household has one in America. But no, the Brits drink instant coffee or espresso.
Yeah. I forgot about the instant coffee.
But the air fryers have changed my life. So
you know, my neighbor, the same one. We're gonna call him Raf because his name is Raf. Him and I went to so England has Costco, and I took him to Costco. The man spent 400 pounds the first
Wow.
time he went, and he's like,
Wow.
I love Raf to death. He is one of my favorite humans. But yeah, he spent like 400 pounds, and he blamed me. He bought an air fryer, and he's like, I need an air fryer. I'm like, nope, I've got.
Not my fault.
I don't need another device in my life, but everyone loves it. I have friends that have like 3 Instapots. I have 1 Instapot. Instapot was a game changer for sure.
Yeah, Instapot.
Yeah, I don't
we
really know
went the air fryer route instead of the Instapot route. So it's like,
Yeah.
We have both. We're a family of both.
We have both too.
like it was like they both kind of came. They both started gaining popular.
Especially like chicken nuggets and like pizza, like the kids stuff. You know.
Reheated leftovers. So if you
Yeah.
get fries,
I put mine in the
it's
microwave?
fantastic.
Right. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's way
Whoa.
better in the air
It's like
fryer.
convection oven. Yeah.
Well,
Way
I have
better
it.
in the
So
air fryer.
I have convection ovens, or what we would call a convection
okay.
oven. So I've got double ovens. They're on top. They're
Yeah.
like in a line, right? So I can use the oven for chicken nuggets, or
This
I have
is
it.
fast.
Actually, I
This
have
is
a
6
convection
minutes, man.
microwave. I bought a convection microwave.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, we
it's
just
sort
bought
of
a
the
fancy
same thing then. It's not
steam
quite
oven.
the same, but it's sort of the same.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It's cool.
Yeah,
But-
I'll use the convection in the microwave for like pizza. Definitely pizza reheating is
Yeah.
game changer. But I had to buy that during my house renovation because my builder, I had a stove, as we would call it, a stove, and a hob over here. And it was an like electric plug-in one. And when they went to redo the kitchen, I had to live out of my front room, which was
Oh, geez.
hilarious for months. And they destroyed my oven and my stove. It was like a all-in-one thing. And he goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, we thought you were getting rid of it." And I'm like, I said, anything that's left in the house is staying, because I had some things that like I wasn't getting rid of, that I couldn't move, like the stove. So I was like, we'll shuffle it to the other room as we go through it. Same with the refrigerator. They smashed up my fridge.
Like just because, like it's there, like
He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were keeping that." I'm like, "Why the hell would I get rid of my nice American fridge? Like, I covered it in plastic. I emptied it out. You guys were there. We had this chat." Like, so I had to live out of a convection oven. So I got a microwave. Actually, it was the first time I got a microwave in over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, because I also didn't have space in the old kitchen was literally a galley kitchen with like no countertop space when I moved into the house. So I would have had to like get a microwave, put it in another room on a table, and I was just like, you know what? I don't need a microwave. Now I'm like, never living without a microwave ever again. Like, not happening. So yeah.
Oh no! Did we lose you? We lost you for a second. I lost you
Really?
for a second.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I see.
Okay.
Oh
everybody.
maybe I was the only one.
No.
I'm gonna blame Xfinity.
Blame
We've
the-
already had the internet
blame
complaints.
Comcast.
We had the internet complaints before this call.
Yes.
we already did that. Yeah.
Right,
Well,
Dwayne's
yep,
outside.
We've gone almost the entire hour, and I don't think we haven't touched technology a one.
Oh, I
We should.
know.
Yeah, I was gonna say we
We
should
wanna
like
do
reel
like
it
a
in
quick
for a
fire.
bit.
We can do a quick.
Just
Amy
like-
has a very important question though.
No, actually, I have a new question.
You have a new question.
All right.
New question.
No, this is a
Let's
tech
wrap
question.
things up. So go ahead, Amy. Ask the question.
No, what are you thinking of all this AI and Copilot? Like, do you see people embracing it, or I see a lot of people like, no, it's the shiny new toy, or do you
It
think
is
people are
literally
going to
the
actually?
topic every day in my life right now.
I know, yeah.
Every single day. Like, I'm not a Copilot expert, but I become one now.
Mm.
So AI is absolutely in everything we do in tech at the moment. And I think the biggest message I say to people is like, the reason why GitHub called Copilot your AI pair programmer is because it's your pair programmer. It's your rubber duck. It's your buddy to help you do things and be more effective. GitHub has published, and they are publishing more stats and figures on productivity increases with using Copilot. And I've worked with a lot of customers that are using it. So I have some customers like won't touch the 10-foot pole because we don't know how to regulate it. We don't know how to control it. There's still so many unknowns.
Yep.
But this is the same thing when we went to the cloud. When we started moving out of data centers into the cloud, customers were like, how's this regulated? What's compliance like? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're still trying to figure out the AI thing. And there's still a lot of talk around that. There's a lot of thought being put into the legality around AI in general. So that there's going to be more coming down that place. Everyone's aware of it. But without question, I do work with customers that have started to try it. And they're like, well, how do I convince my team to use AI? And I'm like, take a task, any task, just take it, do it by hand, time yourself, and, or record how long it takes you. Like, take a stopwatch, but like, it takes me 5 hours. Right. Now do it with Copilot. How long did it take? 10 minutes. So, so that's actually a lot of use cases I'm working with customers now where like a few people are trying something trying and like comparing, without and with. It has a lot of pitfalls. It's not perfect. The models aren't perfectly trained, but they are pretty good at doing stuff. And it's a good way to help you do things. It doesn't replace what we do. We absolutely need humans. For all of us that have done any kind of project ever, project managers change the goalposts every 5 minutes, right? So that's a guarantee. We're not going to get rid of AI because AI won't be able to deal with that, right?
Yeah, so AI can. I want to meet that AI. Like,
we need humans for that.
What the PM was going to do. Like, I want to meet this AI.
AI that can project manage, right? The project manage.
Yeah,
maybe that's the next evolution.
We need humans. We absolutely need humans. So, I'm doing a lot with it. I'm writing a lot of my demos with it. I'm showing it off, like how it can help. Not necessarily how it's not taking over what I'm doing in my demos, but I'm showing how it can help. I wrote a demo this morning, actually, with a colleague in another part of the world, and we're talking about Copilot, and we're talking about all the use cases. So, like, we're queuing up the use cases to talk about, but we're demoing just a few bits, and it really helps in development world, infrastructure as code, writing any kind of automation scripts, etc. It's been wicked helpful, and I think just getting started. And the thing I like about AI for me is if I ask it a question, like it just gives me a starting point, and then using Copilot, it explains to me what it's doing and why, so I can go, okay, that's how it arrived at the answer. It might not be the right answer, but it gives me a path to start learning. So
I can sit there and go, invaluable. The way that it comments in code, I'm like, oh, that's what's happening.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, the auto comments.
The auto comments are really good. And the new Copilot chat feature where I can literally go, can you please, so if you pick up a new project and go, can you explain to me what this code is doing? It will tell you. It will go through the files and tell you what it's doing. It gives you a bit of a start, because anytime we've picked up a new project and like someone's automated something with PowerShell and I'm going, wow, that's really good. How the heck does this work? What does it do?
Right. They didn't put comments.
Right. Because we're human. We hate documentation.
Right. We spent forever building
Copilot to explain it to you.
That's great. Reverse engine.
Oh, we lost Amy. Oh,
Nearing,
no.
All right.
There she is.
There she is.
We lost you. You have Xfinity? I feel like maybe that's what it is.
I think we all do.
I don't.
America.
Version. And at any moment in time, they'll start drilling through my front of my house to fix my internet and just take me down. It'll be fine.
Always at risk.
They have to. They legally can, because your street-facing house, they can literally drill at any point and not give you notice. Like, I'll usually lose my internet, and then I'll get a text message from them. Oh, we have an outage in your area while we perform a service upgrade. You couldn't have told me?
Give me 10 minutes update.
Yeah, we get that too. We get that too. And it's always funny. It's like, why couldn't you have, like, I don't know, sent this before it happened? Like, I could have at least like planned to not be here.
I have to tether off my phone, but or I move stuff. And actually, that's a really good story. I had a recording with Scott Hanselman and had to cancel. So that's embarrassing. Like, yeah. So Dwayne was like, hey, I remember that time someone cut off your internet. I was like, yep. I was supposed to do a recording with Scott Hanselman, and I had to email him and said, look, I can tether off my phone, but StreamYard doesn't love it, running through 4K cameras. And I was just like, I cried. I actually cried in real life. The person who cut my internet line got an earful. And then he's like, well, it's not my fault I got COVID. I'm like, you cut my internet line before you had the fix to deal with. I had non-redundant lines in my house at the time because the electrician did not wire redundant lines, even though it was requested in the bill of materials. He just decided not to do redundant lines. So I then got to run cables all through my house, and my builder had COVID. So that was cool because he cut the lines before he cut the existing line before running the new lines. Like,
that doesn't work.
That is probably the one moment in my life when I had an actual nervous breakdown, and I will say mental health is a thing. I sat on my floor in a fetal position and cried because not only the Scott Hanselman thing, for those of you that have ever seen kind of any of my content, I talk about this a lot. My mother passed away, and I had to spend a lot of time in the US dealing with her estate. And she had literally just passed away, like, I think her funeral was like a week and a half, 2 weeks prior to that incident. I literally arrived into the UK with no internet at my house, needing to record with Scott Hanselman the next day. And I sat on the floor in a fetal position, and I cried. I also that day called our Microsoft's EAP program and was like, I need to speak to someone. They're like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. I can't do my job. my house is a mess. My builder has COVID, and my mom's dead. What do I do? Like, I was a
Yeah,
mess.
when it
So,
mounts up. Yeah, when it
it
mounts
does.
up, it can like really get you at the wrong time.
Oh,
Yeah.
it all happened at once that day. So the good news is I have redundant lines in my house.
Nice.
Doesn't mean I still won't have an outage, but I do have
Yeah.
redundant lines. And fingers crossed, nothing breaks. But that's tech. Like everything breaks. You just got to be prepared for redundancy.
It just breaks differently in the cloud, right?
Well,
I just had this conversation.
Yes, it does.
Well, hey, we made it. We made it a whole hour, and I'm out on.
We could go all day.
I'm out on my deck on my cell phone on streaming. So, we did good. We're gonna need to wrap things up. I think everybody probably has to get to calls. April, we got to have you back again and talk.
Come back anytime.
Sorry.
Amy has to ask her one question that I prepared for. By the way,
Okay, fine.
One last-
Celebrity crush growing up.
celebrity crush, Luke Perry.
Oh, come on.
Dude, the 90s.
I know, but Brendan Fraser was way cuter.
You know what? He was cute, but I had a thing for Luke Perry. I will say now, what's his name? The guy who plays Lucifer, Tom Ellis. He's my adult crush. He is my adult crush. I would drop anything if I saw him in real life. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Anyways, all right. Thank you all. It was amazing.
Thank you.
We almost talked about tech for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but
it
hey,
was fun. It was fun.
Hey, hi. So we've got a good episode, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Talked about,
Yeah.
talked about AI.
Talk about AI.
Sometimes people want to know the personalities behind the tech too. Like that's another thing that's always interesting.
That's the thing that we try to do here. Yeah, we talk a little bit of tech, but yeah, it's all just catching up and having fun. So we appreciate it, April. Thanks, Shannon and Amy, as always.
Thanks, Dwayne.
And we'll
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, April.
till next time. We'll
Have
keep
a good
connecting
evening,
in the
April.
clouds, right?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.